So we found out that master weavers who have sparse networks find new opportunities, but those who use strong ties or closer network help get resources. So it is not about having one kind of network. You need to have both kind of networks, because if you have only sparse networks, you find lots of opportunities, but you don't have resources to realize those opportunities or exploit those opportunities. If you have too many strong ties and dense networks, you may get lots of resources, but you would not find opportunities for you to go and exploit, right? So what I found out was, even in a low-tech industry based in rural areas, network perspective can give insights into how entrepreneurs function and how competitive advantage that one master weaver has over the other. Some of it can be explained by the networks that they have. Comparatively, we realize that the cooperatives don't have this kind of network. So they don't find out what kind of information sells in the market, what kind of product is selling in the market. So the salespeople in stores do not provide that information to producers, because whoever is giving information to the producer are a bunch of designers who may or may not know what is currently selling in the market. And that information flow is perhaps the reason why cooperatives are not able to sell and master weavers are able to sell. Right? Because of that access to market information, because of access to what is selling where. So the kind of product mix that master weavers have, saying that this particular sari will sell in Hyderabad, this particular sari will sell in Bangalore. And that information comes because of the networks that they have. And that, to me, could be the reason why the cooperatives don't produce as successful products as master weavers. And then, while working on this, I kind of got excited by the cluster studies. So cluster studies start to say that small firms, when they are close together, they can derive competitive advantage compared to firms that are isolated. So if you are a small enterprise sitting, 2 or 3 of them sitting in a particular village, compare that to, let's say, Pochampalli or Mangalgiri or Chirala, where there are concentrated weavers in a short location. They have competitive advantage, right? Because clusters make it very easy for entrepreneurs to set up firms as information related to who, what is in the air, right? So people use that and set up firms, right? So from a policymaker's perspective, industrial clusters are seen as vehicles for economic growth. And there are lots of support that has been given by the government of India to revive clusters. But then we realized that not every cluster has been able to develop and grow. So I was kind of interested in, because while I was working with this network story, I found out there were a couple of clusters which did well because of master weavers. A little bit of storytelling here. If you look at Pochampalli, Pochampalli is pretty popular now. You have ikat, you have what they call as half ikat, patola-like saris. But this kind of came about because the story goes that Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay went there many years ago, and then the cluster was weaving small saris that were made out of cotton. So Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay said, why don't you all make silk? And she identified 2 young people and sent them to Banaras. So they learned silk weaving in Banaras. But the problem was they didn't learn how to have color onto the fabric, because the color was bleeding. So they did not understand how to fast color to silk. They couldn't learn that. But when they came back, both of them were offered jobs with Weaver Service Center. One went, the other person, Karnataka Anantaramulu, said, this is not it. I think I should work towards making a silk sari. So he was experimenting, and that was the time when there was somebody else who was doing bleeding Madras shirts, because that was started to be popular in the 70s. So he learned how to fix color to silk, and was able to make the first silk sari after multiple trials and error. And for the first few years, he was very secretive. He had a distant village where he was making these saris. But in order to get designs, he went to Bombay, asked some of these wealthier people who had patola saris to say that I can get these made for you, looked at designs, and then started imitating some of the patola designs using ikat techniques on silk, right? So early on, it was because of Karnat Anantaramlu that silk saris started to be produced in Pochampally, and slowly others started to come in and set up ventures. So those who worked for him came out and became master weavers. So we see time and again, whenever the cluster is growing, people who worked under master weavers, we as weavers, go out and set up their own ventures. I've seen that in Uppada as well. Uppada has become extremely popular, but early on, it was Ghanshyam Sarore and Lulla Venkatarao who created this market for Uppada, and then were able to educate the markets, especially in the southern parts of the country, in terms of what Uppada and Jamdani is. So if you go and study how Uppada cluster has evolved over the last 15 years, it was thanks to these two early pioneers. A bunch of other things happened. Government did skill some of the weavers. Weaver Service Center Vijayawada trained them in Jamdani weaving much before Ghanshyam Sarode and Lulla Venkatarao went ahead and created this newer market for Jamdani, right? So you could see that there are clusters which starts to grow because a couple of master weavers do something interesting, and it starts to grow from there, and that enables a lot of people to come and set up ventures. So evolution of clusters can be studied using handloom as a context again to see that how is it that Uppada started to do well, how is it that Pochampally did well for some time and then fell down for many years and has now started to pick up again, right? So there is a lot that can be studied in terms of cluster evolution using handloom, right? So I have not been able to So I've not been able to prove this chart. I do have data. I start to say that whenever cluster is growing, whenever the market is demanding the product like Pochampally was 20 years ago, or over the last 10 years that Uppada has started to grow, a lot more people will come out of working for a master weaver and then set up their own ventures, and they start to work. But at some point of time, the cluster reaches its carrying capacity. There are no more new opportunities, and that's when clusters started to grow down, and we have seen that with Pochampally for quite some time. Uppada we just started to see because there are other clusters in the neighborhood which are coming up, what they're calling as duplicate products, and you start to see that okay, things are going to go down. And then at some point of time, somebody else is going to create a new product and cluster starts to grow well. It's kind of, so cluster grows and then after a point stagnates, comes down and then grows again. And this kind of evolution of cluster studies can be done using handloom. The data will be available. I have some data, but it's more descriptive. This is not prescriptive. The couple of studies that I'm currently working on, I'm going to close soon, is aesthetic marketplaces. The thing that I'm currently interested in is that how do informal entrepreneurs with very little education and few resources can develop aesthetic products that find place in the free market economy, right? So these are not trained designers, but they're able to come up with products which are able to find market. So we may say that these are not designer products. These don't hold design aesthetics, but they do find market and they are producing, right? So there is this new stream in management literature that's coming up to say that most management literature kind of looks at logico-analytical knowledge, that using analysis, how can we come up with things? How can we predict future? But then they say that we need to interact this with the designerly world of sensory perceptual knowledge to create aesthetic products. So because a master weaver is not an artist, nor is he a complete entrepreneur. So they will work with enough aesthetic elements on a product which will create market. So it is not aesthetics for aesthetics sake or complete product for market sake. So they use both these knowledge, and that's a very recent area of research and management. And if you all are interested, some of you all are doctoral students who are looking at it, this could be a wonderful context to study. How do informal entrepreneurs do this? Because they are able to do it because of years of knowledge that they have accumulated, right? So finally, finally, from a policy point of view, master weavers in many ways has held the handloom industry over the last 30 years. I would say that they have been exploitative in the past. I wouldn't say that they weren't exploitative in the past, but in the current day and age where the demand for market is like pretty hard and everybody has a mobile phone, WhatsApp, Instagram, it is not very easy for them to have the same hold over the weavers that they had in the past, right? So they are looking for alternative ways of governance, that they are coming up with smaller mini master weavers or contract weavers and things like that. So I think it is time we consider master weavers to be an integral part of the handloom cluster, and then start to study them, understand them, and figure out how they are able to put products out in the market, right? And second, for management scholars especially, handloom sector can provide a rich context to test a lot of theories, because you can't publish just on the context, but the context can give you a wonderful setting for you to test studies, because people will give you data and you have lots of historical data to draw from, right? And these days, top journals are looking for interesting context where management theories can be tested. So please do consider, if you are in the neighborhood and if you are interested in this particular sector, if you are looking at a PhD, this could be a very interesting domain to study, right? So this is where I end and probably have time for a few questions. I will stop here, stop my share, and then see if there are any questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, actually, a handloom industry is very unique setting that it has. And there is so much of demand in reality, but this information doesn't go to the people who are selling. Cooperative stores is there in Tamil Nadu also, Chennai also. They visit IIT campus only in the month of, I think, January. For Sankranti, they come here, they set up a stall and they give. That is probably one occasion that many of us visit the cooperative stores. Why we don't go other days is something that, you know, we don't see that. It doesn't come to our mind. No advertising, no social media, as you said. There's so much of demand in foreign countries actually. People will be demanding this Uppada or Pochampalli or Venkatagiri. And the second one is, they also need to go with the age. Now the people want, most of the women, young girls, they don't look at the saris, they look at alternative chudidar materials or lahangas or whatever it is. If they can really work on marketing, the major problem is marketing, sir. If they really work on marketing and if they can, you know, use these designs and come up with other products as well, which meets the present generation requirements, probably the handloom industry can really be big.
So I think for the government stores, one attribute that will be very helpful is quality. Everybody trusts government cooperative stores, that the yarn you use is high quality, the zari that you use is high quality. So they should not compete with master weavers on designs. They shouldn't compete with Nalli on designs. They shouldn't compete with RMKV on designs. you compete on quality, saying that our silk is pure, our zari is pure. And a lot of people go to Mysore silks here, which is government run, only because it is high on quality, right? So you could create a category in the market to say that come to us if you want quality, right? So you need to play the marketing game, but you use market to create a newer category completely different from designers, saying that we only deal with authentic designs. We only do designs which are 50 years old. And so you could create a new identity that some of these people, when they want younger women, when they want quality product, they may want to go there, right? So we have seen that. We have seen customers say that they go to cooperative stores because of, so category creation is another interesting entity that can be studied using.
And they also can go for these techniques like have an Instagram, take orders from across the globe for their own category of products. There is so much of demand.
Yeah. It can be done. A lot of things are being done, right? Yeah.
Probably the kind of motivation I see in employees, that somebody should own the responsibility, sir. Like how BSNL now withered out. I'm scared that handlooms also should not go in that direction.
No, it won't, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah, there's some question by Heritage Weave. Would you want to ask that? Because I just would like to know, why do you say that?
They are also finding that marketing is a major core activity of bringing handlooms into limelight. We talk a different language, they talk a different language.
Can we ask questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi, can you see me? Can you hear me, please?
Hi, I can hear you. Heritage Weaves, yes.
Yes. Sir, my name is Ujjwala, and we run a social enterprise which is called Heritage Weaves. And I started this in 2012. So when you're talking about master weaver and cooperative and all that, I am proud that we added one product called Silk Ikat Dupattas. I work with the Pochampalli weavers. So we were the first people who introduced silk dupattas making in Ikat, because there was a demand in the market. So when you're talking about cooperatives and private weavers, what I felt from my experience is we are flexible to innovate, because we get feedback from the customers. We travel to other exhibitions and all that. Cooperatives, I feel they are not so flexible in introducing new designs, and they take a lot of time and hesitation to introduce new products according to the market. So that is the advantage of having private this thing. And also I would like to say that this market research, if it is done by academic people, it is not very useful to us who are in the real market. We don't get any statistics. Like other countries, there is so much statistics in numbers and all that. But in India, there is nothing in handlooms. So we need that kind of a support from market research organizations, which we can use in our business. So if that support is available to us, we can, like, I am into exports also. I provide fabric to designers who are in other countries like Canada and Europe and all that. So we have to be flexible to survive.
No, I got your point. I got your point that you are, but the thing is, Ujjwala, you said, no?
Ujjwala, yeah.
So the thing is, in formal fashion industry, right?
Yeah.
Predicting colors is $1 billion market.
Yes.
Predicting what color is going to be there in 2022 is a big, huge industry where they use data, where they do. So how is this industry being done in the, so you're right, it's being flexible, but we need to study that. We need to study how is it being done in order to say that this is how it needs to be done. But we also need to say one thing, that it is because of the cooperatives that handlooms survive. Because right from 47 until like 80 or 90, it was only because of handloom cooperatives that the industry survived. Right now, they may not be as nimble as the market is, as nimble as entrepreneurs, but But if you look at the kind of research that went into it in terms of training of skilling of weavers has gone into it. Cooperatives through weaver service centers has done immense work in the past. No
Yes.
longer do, right? So we need to do that and kind of, so which is why we think you may require much more nimbler organization to give you market information. But for us academics, when we have our own theories, we have our own journals to hit, my contention is that it is a good topic for people to study and then publish in top journals, because then we will start to have more people interested in this particular sector. Right. So we got your point completely that
Sure.
unfortunately, right now.
Yeah.